Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company. A mostly lower day on Wednesday with the exception of nearby live cattle futures, but it really felt like a risk-off day in the markets, Vince, with some commodity-wide selling pressure in grains, lots of fun selling there. But, was it bearish headlines like the Black Sea Grain Initiative, the China corn cancellation, or was there more to it?
Again, I think psychology is a lot of it, but the other side of it, you get days like today, you can find those algorithm traders that came up with something that they jumped on, and I think that was part of it, at least to get started. Then when we came back and we had the grain corridor deal getting extended, when we had the China cancellation, it added fuel to that fire. Uh, Corn was somewhat impressive, coming back a little bit at the end of the day, and sometimes you'd rather see it maybe close right on the bottom and then maybe you get a recovery from that point. I think the next day or two will give us a better indication, but just not looking real friendly going home. No matter how oversold we are, we could stay here for a while.
Yeah, do you think most of the bearish news is kind of factored in here? Are we getting close to lows there? We took out major support of $5 in D's corn and 12 in the beans.
You would think so. We have to reflect back on the news we had on Friday. Corn yields are up there. I think the bearish thing on the beans more than anything was that projected world carryout for 2024 to 122 million metric tons. We haven't seen a number like that for a long time, if ever. And I think that scared the market somewhat and got people to leave now. And weather is definitely not uh, bullish from any perspective. Looks like we're going to get the planting done in pretty good shape. Moisture is better than it has been. I don't think that story is over by a long shot, but for right now, the traders forgetting about that it is dry on subsoil areas.
So you mentioned the algorithm traders, and they're already short in the corn market. How much shorter do they want to push this thing? Because they don't normally go short this early in the growing season, do they?
Not usually, but I think so much of it is when we look at those traders, they become bold, they got money. If they're making money, usually they're going to continue to push that agenda until they get punished doing it. And maybe that's more so towards the traditional funds versus the algorithm traders. But again, they've gotten to be a big force in the market until they decide to change their mind. There could sure be more downside.
Did the algorithms also get cut up here just recently? And, the debt ceiling discussions and all of that kind of adding to the risk off or not?
I think that all makes a difference. You got to take those big macroeconomics are going to be part of what we do, how the psychology trades, and it just like we don't have a lot of interest in the commodities right now. If you look at some of those traditional index funds, those guys have been shedding long positions over the last month or two, whether it be cattle market or whether it be the grains, and that's not helpful to offset some of that algorithm trading.
Yeah. So, you mentioned the Black Sea Grain Initiative being extended, and obviously that weighed on the wheat market today. It was kind of disappointing to see HRW wheat not even to price in or rally here on what was some pretty devastating yield news out of that first day of the crop tour.
Agreed on that one. You wonder, was that all plugged in? And the other side of it, when you got to a certain point and you put new highs in a couple of times on Wednesday morning and then you failed to follow through, I think that put a little bit of a negative touch in that wheat. And once you sold off that third time, it just like there wasn't any news to bring it back.
Yeah, I agree with you. We couldn't get through $9 on that July KC wheat, and that seemed to be a sticking point for the market. But if we get confirmation of a much smaller crop in Kansas out of the crop door, is it possible we could have a little bit of a relief rally?
I think it is. When I looked at things after Monday, I believe that in the next couple of days we needed to take out Monday's highs, which we did, but we failed to close above it. But if you get the right news, yes, you could re-spark that.
Cattle market, let's talk about that one because live cattle futures, at least the front end of the board, we did see some forward spreading. So is that market anticipating some steady cash because the bids came in a little bit better?
From what I've seen a bid so far in Iowa, we weren't anything to write home about. I think part of
Okay.
that firmness is in the June is there are several people out there that believe the June August spread should widen. Others looking at that huge discount to cash, whether it's in the north or in the southern plains, believing it's wider than it should be. I think that's all part of where you're at. Doesn't mean you have to go any place, but I think that could sure set up some firmness and get a little buying in that June contract as we go through the next week or two.
Well, and obviously, Vince, the livestock sector did get caught up in the macroeconomic sell-off, the commodity-wide sell-off too, didn't it?
Yes, and cattle typically get there, and when it looks over its shoulder, you sure can't be impressed with what the hogs did. I'm sure that didn't help, but cattle seem to always react quickly to that macro, and we may forget about it for a few days, but I think it's looming in the back of everyone's mind.
Yeah. And some typical profit taking in the hogs. And so, do you think that that was just what I said? Was it just profit taking because we had such a, you know, macroeconomic sell off and everything? Or was there more to it than that? Was there some news that I wasn't aware of?
Uh, I didn't see any news myself in there. I was a little disappointed that we had that hard of a sell-off. We're not
Right.
that far from recent lows after 3 very nice days of rally. We wiped most of it out. As long as we don't put new lows in, I think there's a shot that we can try to recover out of here. But I think that market continues to watch each day, that pork cutout market at noon, especially. Cash was sharply higher at noon than they didn't care like you've seen other days. It's more so how are we moving this product, worrying about big freezer stocks and how long are they going to persist, and the good possibility that we maybe don't have that summer rally because of the freezer stocks that are there.
You bet. Yeah, the cash was up like 7 to 12.5 dollars and we didn't even respond to that, which is sad. All
Right.
right. Thanks for joining us, Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company, and that is Markets Now.